So hello everybody, and hello to Kemi. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, it's a real pleasure and a delight. And we're talking about my favourite thing. So.
Always, it needs to be talked about. So
Yeah.
if you could just introduce yourself to the listeners, what it is you do, what you're passionate about.
Yeah. Okay, so I call myself a birth keeper now. Like I've even called myself keeper of the birth gate. Like,
I like that.
it sounds quite pompous, but includes quite a few things. And yeah, I've just been willing to accept the importance of what I do. So I spent a lot of time in the birth room as a doula, because it feels like a whole different world now. And then in my 30s, I knew I needed to protect birth spaces from about the age of 15. And then it came to me, you know, my mother's birth story and everything. It all was meant to be, and my own birth journey, and there was a lot of pain and neglect in it and things like that. Not for my mother was neglected in her pregnancy, childbirth, postnatal, you know, and it impacted her whole life. So I started by being a doula for quite some time. Whilst my day job was accountancy, and then in the evening I'd sneak off and assist at birth. I know it's like totally different worlds.
Very different.
Yeah, because I mean, with accountancy, no one dies. Sorry to put it like that, but you know,
Yeah,
what's the
pretty
worst
safe.
that can happen? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, the books don't balance or whatever, or the spreadsheet is corrupts, but you know, that's the worst that can happen whilst with childbirth. So even though I knew I wanted to be in the arena of assisting people with childbirth, I resisted it because it was a huge calling. It's a huge responsibility, a parent and their baby. So I ran into accountancy, nice and safe there, but the calling kept coming. So I went into doulaing, and then I noticed that sometimes there was a bad call, or somebody suffered. I mean, that was back, like, you know, 25 years ago, and that is so much worse now. Like,
Right.
anyone being a doula now, like, they've got the ovaries to do it. Seriously, it's very hard now. Like,
How shocking. That's actually quite surprising that it's so much worse now. Oh, your sound is cut out. Oh, there we go. Hang on. Your sound was just cut out then.
Yeah. Okay, good. Just let me know if it happens again. I think maternity services are running with the apparent power that they seem to have. And so, yeah, it's just, you know, and especially observing the behaviour of maternity services in the last, you know, coming up to 2 years, it's just like shocking and revolting.
Right.
So, you know, the tenuous hold we had on human rights in maternity care vanished.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's worse, I've started already. What's worse is that whilst other areas of care are trying to normalize, maternity care are flying with that. Nope, you can't have anyone with you. Nope, you can't have your partner. Nope, your partner can come. Oh, your partner's been here, your baby's an hour old now. No, your partner's got to go. It's disgusting. It's revolting, considering that maternity care isn't about pathology. It's just a normal thing that happens. They're privileged and lucky that people pick their bumps up and take themselves into a hospital. You know, 98% of the UK still go to a hospital for childbirth. Yeah, a handful of those might end up in the birth centre. It's disgusting. So anyway,
why is it like that? Why is it because it's such a people are scared? Like, is that why in the maternity sector they're scared to go against what it says on their piece of paper because it's people's babies? Is that why it's like that?
Well, it's people's babies, but it is people's babies. So if somebody chooses to give birth at home in, I don't know, in their back gardens in a yurt, wonderful, blissful from my point of view. If we're recognizing that it's their babies, why then are we referring them to children's services? Why are people having the police called on them? You know, why are people having court orders against their choices? So it's not just about a concern for people's babies, it's about control.
Yeah.
It's not about fear for people's babies, because what happens to people and their babies in maternity services a lot of the time is quite horrific. Okay. But they survive, so everyone thinks it's all okay. Oh, well, they're alive at the end. You've set the bar really low now, and nobody gets arrested. No one gets prosecuted for what happens, the coercion, criminal activity, the assault when consent isn't sought, etc. Going into that, so we know, we absolutely know it's not primarily about the well-being of the woman and the baby, because when the woman or birthing person, when that parent leaves obstetrics with suicidal tendencies, or a perineum that won't heal, or a sex life that's non-existent, or a marriage that's broken, or a job that can't be returned to, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Because they're throwing out obstetrics. We only care about, are you alive when you left the building? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
The bar's too low. So when I noticed that as a doula, and that was, you know, in my 20s and early 30s, I realized, no, I have to be a midwife. In tears, I accepted the calling, because I knew it was not going to be an easy ride. Then I found out that being a midwife, being with women, meant that you were an activist. You know, I'd been groomed to be compliant. I mean, I struggled with being compliant, but I've been groomed that way, as have you, as have all of us that went through the school system. So we were groomed to be compliant. So immediately I had to start pushing back, because my calling was strong. So that's when, you know, it became a bit of a loud mouth. Obviously, you can't really survive very long in the National Health Service doing that. So fortunately, I don't like being pushed. I prefer to jump. So I took myself out. And the same way I took myself off the Nursing and Midwifery Council register, I took myself off of there. But, you know, people that are activists, people that are loudmouths and rebels are not appreciated. Just sit down, shut up. You know, women, just lie down, open your knees. You know, it's just violence. It's just misogyny. And so now, I'm in the most wonderful position of having spent many years in the birth room watching physiological birth unfold. So I'm now, like, my mouth's even louder, because I'm saying, no, they can do it. The reason why a lot of women appear to not be able to give birth is because you're sabotaging it. It's your environment. It's what you've said to her for 10 months, you know, that's undermines it. You know, instead of talking to her about the way she's sitting, the way she's lying, you know, what she can eat, you know, you're going to have to edit me a lot, but you know, it's like, you know, telling her, oh, don't eat shellfish, you know, all pasteurized cheese, no, and then filling her with all the drugs that haven't had long-term tests on them, and the effect of their baby, you know, and the effect of their babies, you know, nobody cares about that, you know. So oh, don't drink a coffee, but we're going to give you heroin when you're having a child.
It's a very good point.
The double standards is clearly not about the health of parents and babies. So that's what drives me as a birth keeper. So I spend a lot of time now birth keeping virtually, because I'm traveling. I'll be in Mexico for a while, because they've got they've maintained traditional midwifery over there. So I want to know what they know. You know, I might know half of it or whatever, but for sure they have got a way of ensuring that birth unfolds well in home-like settings that I might need to know. It happens for me a lot. My transfer rate is low. I'm not outstanding. It's like all independent midwives have a very low transfer rate. That's why they can keep getting booked. most of us are booked by word of mouth. If you book an independent midwife for a home birth, and 50% of the people we book end up in hospital, we're not going to get very far as independent midwives.
Yeah.
So we are skilled, independent, all of us. But I just want to find out what the traditional midwives in Mexico are up to.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I've had a lot of offers, so yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about Mexico. How incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's quite surprising. It's amazing. Okay, so when we hear the term physiological birth, what do we mean? So I talk about it on the podcast. I talk about it when I'm teaching people. I talk about it on my Instagram. There's lots of people. But what does it actually mean?
What it actually means is natural birth. So we used to be able to say normal birth in inverted commas, but normal birth offends some people. Like every time I heard that term, I flinched, because I accepted unnecessary induction, which naturally cascaded to a cesarean because I was a first-time mother. So any time anyone said normal birth, I flinched. Like, what's wrong with me then? Am I abnormal, kind of thing? But natural birth is just birth the way you were designed. We've got a hole at the bottom of our torsos. We've got an immune system that wants to cough out our babies when they send a signal to say that they're ready. It's just happened for thousands and thousands of years. So natural birth is what physiological birth is. So we use the term physiological because sometimes people, there's connotations to the word natural. I don't care. I will always use it. But physiological birth, people are more interested in what that is, and it's kind of a sciencey term, and explains what it is. Your physiology works to create the baby, grow the baby, and expel the baby. It takes 2 cells and makes a whole human with eyelashes and toenails and everything else. It's just miraculous. And I think people underestimate, or people forget, because, well, largely because we don't understand the process. We don't know the process. So, because of that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how blinking works, but we're both doing it.
We have faith it's going to happen, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess because we're blinking and pooing and sneezing and vomiting from the time we're here, we have faith in that, I guess. Whilst
we do it, we do it a lot. So we
do it a lot. Whilst giving birth can be the faith in that can be easily infiltrated by people who don't wish us well. And you can't, if you're prepared to say to somebody, baby's a bit big, don't know if you'll get it out. If you're prepared to say that to somebody who basically the baby is already inside of them and it has to get out. If you're prepared to undermine someone like that, you're not wishing them well.
No.
Especially when you know that 14-pound babies leave women's vaginas. Why would you tell them that an 8-pound, 13-ounce baby can't without breaking its shoulder or any of the stuff that they say?
I know.
You and I are both hypnobirthing teachers. The mouth, it's terrible.
So important. But as well, if you think about anything else we do physiologically, like even if it is just pooing, so something we do often, obviously, but if you heard all these hopefully if you heard all these horror stories from people every single day, and put things on TV about it, everyone would then be scared, because that's just what happens, right? It just becomes so acceptable when it comes to childbirth to scare people for no reason.
They do. They do, scaring people for no reason, and it is no reason, because we know what's possible. And any of us that really understand physiological birth understand that if a woman or birthing person is unable to expel their baby, it's more than likely, why wouldn't you look at the person who's on their back with their legs in the air? Why would you look at that and say, that might be the reason why she needs help? If we get her out of that position, You see, that's like childbirth 101. So if you've got a registration and you're getting paid to show up, and it doesn't occur to you that you've just facilitated a position that's going to make it worse, then I don't think you deserve to keep your job.
No, that's a good point. It is. Okay, so what can we do? So for the women listening to this, for the birthing people listening to this, people that are pregnant and, you know, looking towards their labour, how can they best facilitate a physiological birth? What can they do? What are the main things they can be doing?
Really good question, and I'm sure you may have answered it in other podcasts.
Yes.
Well, which is brilliant. My take on it is what I've seen, like when I've looked after people that just choose a home birth, not because they've been exempted from it by the NHS, but generally, you know, first time birthers who want a home birth, like many of them, quite a high proportion of them, it'll be because they're raised on a farm, or they had domestic pets that gave birth to puppies, kittens, etc., or they were home born, or they witnessed home birth of their siblings or something. It'll be usually that, and then they'll say, oh, yeah, I choose a home birth, like no question. When I come across people like that, I think, yeah, actually the work needs to start before you conceive.
Yes.
Somehow something has to happen with your mindset. Like us as teachers, when we teach parents, they're already pregnant. But I remember when I was hosting a lot of group parents classes, what crept into my advertising is come along preconception, you know, come along if you're a grandparent, because I realised that, you know, even you could have parents that receive the information that we give, but if they've got a grandparent that's absolutely terrified, you know, their parents are terrified, they can still scupper the plans and the birth. And I just felt like, yeah, preconception, if we could work with your mindset then, because that's what hypnobirthing does, if you can work with your mindset then, you go into the pregnancy making different choices, so you don't then have to undo all of the fear mongering that happens at the booking appointment. For instance, you've got like an hour with a midwife going 43, oh, okay, we'll have to refer you to the consultant for that, you know. Oh, you're a bit chubby, we're gonna have to refer you to the consultant for that. But that's like the first appointment, right? So if we could work with people before birth, before they're even conceived rather, then I think that would go a great way. I think not speaking to someone who's going to dismantle you at every appointment goes a long way. So like I offer virtual midwifery, and for some people I say, look, if you could possibly get by with just me, even though it's virtual, I'll show you how to dip your own wee, I'll show you how to, you know, take your own blood pressure, etc. If I try and do that so that they can avoid having the, or don't know, you're black, so you might need inducing at 39 weeks kind of rubbish, right? So I actually do that now. Or if people really are too nervous to have just virtual midwifery and go and see the midwife, I say, okay, but use me as an antidote. So when you've come away from that appointment and they've told you, you know, I don't know, what other things do they say? Oh, you know, your baby's so ginormous, it's not going to get out. I can then, you know, flood you with the information about how your bones open, your pelvis moves, the relaxing to relax all your connective tissue, how the baby's head molds, you know, then, you know, that session following, I will be able to, I'll be the antidote for the poison.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be so helpful if they did that rather than just say the negative things, you know, talk to people about, well, you know, the baby, you know, is predicted to be bigger, but don't worry, like this is what happens, this is how your body can do that, and why, how long does it take to say that? Like, why can't that be
How long
said?
did it take me? Like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know?
I hear so many people come to me who are clients or listeners and say that they've been told their baby's big. Like, obviously
Yeah.
you hear it as well all the time, and
Yeah.
and then they're just panicked by being
Yeah.
told that their baby's big, and it's then
Yeah.
going to change all of the choices they're making, because
Yeah.
they're then terrified, and
Yeah.
it's just the same story every time. It's such
Yeah.
a shame.
It is the same story, and the story, the story ends with instruments. Occasionally it might end with, oh, that, and then a baby popped out. But I was sharing evidence a few weeks ago about the fact that by them just saying big baby, more people choose cesareans, more births.
Yeah, I think I shared that. That was really interesting.
Isn't it
Yeah,
interesting? They
really,
actually
yeah.
showed the stats for that. And no, it was that amazing Rebecca Decker
Yeah.
for evidence-based birth. That's right, I shared her stuff. So when you've got that happening, what you've done then is you've affected the health of the birthing parent, the baby, and ongoing descendants.
Yeah.
Because you've then got the baby that came out with a third of their blood missing from surgical birth, so 50% of their microbiome missing, or well 100%, but 50% can be restored. You've got all of those knock-ons, the asthmatic child, the adult with eczema. It goes on and on.
And they then tell, that experience for them is most likely pretty negative. So they then tell, their friends, they then tell their own children that it's a horrible experience. And it does just, there's another bad negative birth story out there, isn't there then? And, it gets told. And I think, I often think that if I hear a negative birth story, and it's usually not from people I've taught, which is great, it's usually from kind of a friend that might tell me a story, and I just think, oh, it's another one, like it's another person that thinks badly of birth, and it doesn't have to be that way, and it's just can you, so the reason I'm asking this question is because I teach, so like you as well, teach people all across the world, which is amazing. But obviously in some countries and some places it's more difficult to be at home.
Very much. It's banned in some countries.
Yeah, exactly, it is. So can you facilitate a physiological birth in a hospital? So like just based on what you've just said as well, like you can, how can you do it in a hospital? How can you make sure that you can be as natural as possible even in that environment?
Well, the environment, most delivery suites look like laboratories, don't they? And some of them don't have curtains or blinds in the window, or ones at work. They never have locks on the doors, so you'll never get that sense of privacy. You'll always have people bursting into your room. That's like expecting you to, no, I won't make it personal, expecting me to have a great sex session, the bedroom next to my mother-in-law's, no lock on the door, it's never going to happen.
No blinds on the windows.
Yeah, no blinds on the window, anything. It's just never going to happen. So I don't know why we would expect women to expel a whole human under those conditions. So, how could we kind of facilitate it? Locks on the doors so that she can hear the lock turning and know that she has privacy. Blinds, curtains, mood lighting, anything you'd need for a great sex session, you need for birth, because it's the same hormones. Just creating the nice environment, no beeps. I think it's so rude. People think, oh, well, we've got to do it because you could end up saving a life. It's so rude for somebody to be trying to expel a human and you're there, click, click, trying it. You do it when they're out of the room, for crying out loud. Don't do it when they're in there about to expel a whole human. It's a sacred moment. This is not time for you to play with your toys. These toys need to be checked when women are not in the room giving birth. It's rude, right? So it's absolutely, it's sabotaging the birth. It's, even like a woman, she may not want to know where she's at. and then you've got somebody flicking around on switches, trying lights, trying gases, in case your baby needs saving. We need to save the life. It's way more important than your hormone levels. You know, it's rude. So we've got to think about the environment if we're going to say somebody has no choice but to give birth in the labour ward. Got to think about it being private. We've got to think about who's coming in and out and why. You know, you've got some midwives who take their job seriously, they're autonomous and responsible, who guard that door. I've seen them. There's NHS midwives, like, they'll crack the door, there'll be, you know, a team outside, consultant and these minions, and then they'll go, yeah, okay, I'll come out. And then they'll go out and talk, you know, they'll whisper. You know, they'll prioritize the person's partner front and center. Like they'll only approach if they need to. The person support people, their partners, and doulas, because everyone needs an advocate in the NHS now. It's clear. Yeah, you get some people say, "Oh, my team are brilliant." It's like a lottery. Everyone needs to take an advocate doula, a doula who knows how to advocate. So have them there. Let them help maintain the space. And you, midwife, just in the corner in case you needed. Scribble your notes if you have to for the protection of the hospital if you need to, but don't invade the birth space. That way, I think a lot of people could give birth beautifully in the labour wards.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if that's how all of them were trained and that's how everybody behaved? It would be amazing. Can you know, I suppose as a birth partner, one of the jobs is to advocate for that. I mean, I think sometimes as well, when you're in a hospital, it feels like it's not your space, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So it's harder to say, can you knock before you come in? But
I think it's asking too much to be teaching partners to be good girls and good boys, you know, from the time they're here, and then asking them to square up to the control. Because everyone wants to believe that the staff in the hospital, everything they're suggesting is for the good of the parent and the baby. And it's totally not. It's for the good of the hospital and their stats and their negligence payments. Yeah. So you need a partner who's a rebel, and most aren't. Rebels don't do well, especially in countries like the UK, etc.
Yeah. We like to police people, don't we? So nobody
we police each other, you know.
But that's why you said, like, you perhaps, if you can, need a doula, a third party, someone that's not actually emotionally tied to you.
And I absolutely hear you. You're very good if you can. I'm a bit more of a cow. You have to have it. Sell stuff. Do a whip round your family and friends. Yeah. Before you conceive, make sure you've got your doula budget. I'd love to say IM, but we've killed off IMs in the UK. They're available. I need to be specific. They are available and essential for antenatal and postnatal care. And speak with them, see what can be arranged for birth care whilst we're sorting out the installment situation for IMs. They are magnificent, and I'm no longer an IM. I'm speaking on behalf of IMs. They are magnificent. You will.
And just to say, IM is independent midwife. Just so
we've got continuity. We've got continuity teams too in the NHS, but some of them are expected to have caseloads of 70. So you know how long we're going to have those, and some of them are already being dismantled. So, you know, I'm just saying, for doulas or IMs, however you're going to work with them, plan in advance. Do not buy the buggy, the car system or whatever. You know, just buy the car seat for now. Carry your baby in a sling. Do not buy a cot. What you need is to get through your birthing in great condition. That's what you need.
We put so much emphasis on other things in life that we want to go well and we want to have a good experience from, and we just neglect birth so much. And you know, it really needs to be seen as a priority, because
it's a priority.
It affects your whole life, like how you do your birth. It's so important.
Sell your TV, sell your car.
You
can walk. I'm serious. This is that serious. You must have your doula or your IM who
Yeah.
advocates, because not all of an IM is born advocate. We're a pain in the ass. We are, you know.
Because there's a reason they're not in the system anymore. So
yeah, we're, you know, IMs are just amazing if you need someone to look after you. Doulas, not all doulas are advocates, not all of them want to be. So just check.
yeah, of course, yeah. So we've talked, I think, slightly about it already, or we touched on it, but I wanted to ask you about so first time mothers, birthing people, parents.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all hear a lot of kind of horrible birth stories, and a lot of the time it's from first time birthers.
Yeah.
So how can we get them, that group of people, to understand just how important physiological birth is? Because I think and first time, you know, doing it first time, you don't know what to expect. It's all new. It's you know, you have no idea what's going to happen. So it's really quite hard sometimes to have that trust in yourself. And I see it and I get it. What can we do? How can we make them see how important it is?
You're doing it. I promise you. All of us who share stories, share evidence, you know, all of us are doing it. It's just a really slow, painful process. But we can't do any more. I personally don't think we can't do any more than we're doing at the moment. I mean, we're being so graphic. We're creating reels, IGTV. We're sharing on Facebook, Twitter. Evidence. We're sharing the evidence, showing that first-time birthers are getting sabotaged at a higher rate, and why. You know, I would love to say, you know, oh, if we just talk more to maternity services, but they know all of this. We don't need to teach them, you know. So, you know, people sometimes say, oh, can't, you know, maybe you should have more, you know, I don't know, more discussions and planning with the team. They all know what they're doing. You know, they all know that if they tell a first-time birther, you know, your baby's too big and everyone's going to die, it's going to have more purchase with a first-time birther than someone who's given birth before. They're using their vulnerability and they're not knowing the unknown to manipulate them. So the work needs to be done and is being done with informing people. I think we're all going hell for leather at it. I think we're doing very well.
Yeah. Just fighting against such a big system that it's it sometimes feels overwhelming, doesn't it? But I mean, I always say, and obviously you know, one of the answers is to just educate yourself as much about everything when it comes to birth as a first time parent, you know, going into it, is to really know your stuff. And obviously doing a hypnobirthing course or anything like that is the first step, definitely. But you know, reading and learning is just going to give you so much knowledge, so that you can go and you can feel more confident asking questions and things like that. I think,
but can I also, Claire, I just need to reiterate, is that you can do all of those things, but if you're not you have to do your best to choose a setting well, everyone starts their birth at home anyway, if it's spontaneous. So, you know, you've got to facilitate spontaneous birth. That's the first thing. You've got to choose a home-like setting, because remember, it's the hormones of lovemaking, creating your baby, that gets the baby out, and that doesn't work in a lab. It's got to be home-like settings. So it's your choosing. So if you know all of these things, but then you don't affect a choice and assist you to maintain your choosing with an advocate, then everything that you've learned, you know, with respect, when you're giving birth, you're busy. So you're not going to be in that space to protect yourself, etc. If your partner, you know, I'm not blaming them, but if they do all the learning and then the moment they're in front of authority they cave, then you're unprotected. So, you know, so you can do all the learning, but you have to follow through, honor what you've learned, put things in place. you know, sacrificially so, you know, forget that holiday, you know, don't do that renovation, literally, you know, put everything behind, you know, even if it's like, don't create a nursery. Do not spend money creating a nursery that you could spend on your advocates and making choices with regard to where you're going to give birth. By the way, on my IG, it's a few scrolls back, I might repeat it. I just tell you about your rights to ask for, well, your right to have a high birth. If you don't ask for it, you state that you're having one, and your rights to having a birth centre birth. But people need to understand you have a right to it. Nobody can, even if the birth centre says, oh, I'd rather not have you in here because your BMI is 35.1, you can say, well, I'm still giving birth at your birth centre. So it's, so people need to know those rights. So it's a combination of things. Yes, having the information, but it's in what are we going to do about it?
Just to touch on that weirdly. So one of my really good friends, she's having her third baby. She had a unplanned emergency cesarean with her first. She had a successful VBAC with her second, which is amazing. I know, incredible. And so this time, obviously, she's wanting to give birth vaginally again. And she's at the moment pretty keen on home, but was sort of talking to her midwife about birth centre, and the birth centre said no, because you've because of your history, even though she's had a successful VBAC. And it was really funny because they sent her a picture of a room on their labour ward saying, but this room is really nice and it has a birth pool and all of this, you can have this room. And she's like, what are the chances that when I go into labour, that room's going to be that
particular room? Exactly.
That's my room. So we laughed a bit about that, but that's interesting that she could still say, well, it's my choice, I'm giving birth.
Thank you for your advice. I'll be giving birth at your birth centre.
You know what, a lot of people don't realise that, and actually I didn't realise that you could do that, so that's amazing.
I'll share those posts again later.
Great.
I'll share them again.
Thank you. I'll share them as well. Okay, so in terms of intervention, and I guess we have touched on this already slightly. I mean, I've got my list of questions, but I think we've sort of touched on most of them anyway.
Okay.
Maybe we have spoken about this, but why is there so much unnecessary intervention? And maybe we covered it when we were talking about, because they, you know,
the way it's set up and litigation, etc. You get off lighter if you're shown to be doing stuff. So seeing as, you know, from their point of view, all birth is dangerous. What they've not realised, well, they have realised it, but they don't want to do anything about it, is that it's a lot of what is being done that cascades that they're fighting at the moment. Right. So, you know, you got the woman with the 3 litre blood loss, you know, in high dependency or in the ICU. Why did that happen? Oh, she had a sweep that cascaded. Yeah, but we don't want to admit all of that. So there's a situation then where, you know, if litigation occurs, they've got to have been seen to have done everything, to have all bases covered.
It's box ticking, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the negligence payments, if they will be lessened, and, you know. So you've got, you know, lawyers, all the units have their lawyers, you know, then you've got to consider the schemes that they have to make payments out of. You've got to consider that the payments run at about £1 billion a year, and that's half of all negligence payments made by the unit.
Wow.
Is in maternity care.
Yeah.
So all the other disciplines, of the unit of the hospital.
Yeah, it's 50%, isn't it?
Yeah, put together.
Wow.
So there's a lot of fear and running around, and no one wants to get off of this intervention conveyor belt, because, you know, when babies die, and I say when, because babies not all babies make it. Yeah, there's a stillbirth rate, and they count them from 24 weeks in this country, and it's way higher from week 24 to 37 than it is 37 weeks onwards, right? But all the focus is on 37 weeks onwards, because, you know, those that don't really think about the long-term well-being will say, well, if we stop them being pregnant now, you know, then we save ourselves the inevitable stillbirths that occur every week from 37 weeks onwards. So they're gradually pulling it back, you know, not 42 weeks, 41 weeks, or not 41 weeks, 40 weeks, or not 40 weeks, 39 weeks. Eventually we find ourselves, you know, doing inductions at 37 weeks.
Yeah.
There's evidence to show that the preterm preterm complications or pathology happens for 37 and 38 weekers. Early term is called, and they're still not as strong and not as well developed and with continuing health as someone born at 39 or 40 weeks, and they're not as great as someone born at 41 or 42 weeks. It's been shown evidence, but they just want to stop being pregnant. Term starts at 37 weeks. They'll find every reason to end your pregnancy from that week onwards.
I suppose as well, being cynical, but it's then a bit like you're done then, aren't you? Like you're off their radar.
But it's not cynical.
Done.
You're no longer an obstetric case. Once a baby's born, the baby's the problem of the neonatologist in pediatrics. So we're talking about cost codes here. Okay?
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. I know. It's such a minefield. Cool. I think I've asked you everything that was on my list. Is there anything that else that you want to say on this topic that you think is really important that people know?
I think we've covered everything. I'm sure as soon as we stop the podcast, I'll go, oh yes, I should have said. But
I'm sure you'll be somewhere saying it, so it's okay. People can just follow you and then they'll find it.
That would make a meme or something. But just to remind everyone that childbirth is a normal event that's occurred for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years without all the bells and whistles we have today. Even outside of a pool, without a water birth, you know. So birth occurs. What I always say is, like, to give birth, all you need is boobs. Sorry, to have a baby, forgive me. To have a baby, all you need is boobs and a bed. Yeah, that's literally all you need. And then, you know, hopefully some food would be nice, some water would be nice. But you don't need a bed to even give birth on. That's to climb into with your newborn so you can have a good rest. And then the food for your baby is on your chest. So it really is simple. Like all of the things that, you know, at the moment we have a lot of people requiring assistance with conception. I've got the most wonderful friend that, you know, I was her midwife, and she is now helping to heal fertility with homeopathy, because you know, people are going to great lengths and expense to heal it. And actually, you know, it's kind of a bit of an epidemic at the moment, people requiring assistance to conceive. So, you know, it's just, I think we all need to really get back to basics. And I think we're working too hard, too long in stressful conditions. I think the way we live needs addressing. There's a big picture that's forming about our challenges when it comes to conceiving and giving birth, and I think the answers are quite simple, and maybe you know, our society needs to go back to basics in many ways, and a lot of this apparent pathology will disappear.
What's funny is a little while ago I was talking to my nan, who's like mid-80s, and she was asking me about hypnobirthing and things like that, and I was telling her about teaching people, and she said, oh, we never had any of that in our day. And I thought, that's because in your day you didn't need it. It was all just believed.
That's right. It's absolutely needed now. It's absolutely needed now. And there's another excellent birth keeper who's creating a course about mindset. So I cannot wait for that to be out, because what we do in hypnobirthing is amazing. You know, were you KG hypnobirthing as well? Yeah, I could tell, because you're excellent. What you put out on your IG is spot on. So we're doing a really amazing job. But the attrition in maternity care is getting so high that, you know, this Carmen, the birth coach company, she's realizing that there's still a gap is forming, because maternity services are going even harder with their interventions and earlier. So she's creating a product for that, which I cannot wait for people to have access to it, because the mindset, we need to do a full 180 with mindset as a society, but it starts with the individual parents.
Yeah, slowly. Yeah, you've got to do it. Yeah, gradual, but hopefully one day.
It's happening every day, you know, several times a day. I get messages, and I'm sure you do as well, of people who are thanking us for the price.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, we are making an impact slowly, but we're getting there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much. It has been so interesting to talk to you. I've loved it. Thank you. And I know so many people are going to love it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk again.
A pleasure. No, it's lovely.
You know, who gets it, and I'm just really glad that you're out there serving parents. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. No, yeah, it's needed, isn't it? So and also it's one of those things, you're the same. I could talk about it all day long. So it's amazing to be able to talk about it. You know,
we managed to keep it well within an hour, which is quite.
We've been good. We've been very good. Well, no, thank you so much, Kemi. And what I'll do is I'll leave all of your details in the description for the podcast, so people can go and find you. And I would recommend wholly that people follow you. I share a lot of your stuff anyway on my Instagram.
Oh, thank you. Well, they don't need to follow me then if you're sharing it.
Oh no, but follow you as well. Because you know, I definitely would. But no, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.